Okay, so let's say I wanted to use this image to make a sci-fi book cover using masks. For this particular sci-fi book cover, and you can kind of experiment with whatever you want to do with your sci-fi book cover, I'm going to make this girl have a yellow eye to be a werewolf. And then it's a little too bright and happy here, so I'll probably make that a little bit darker. And then I'll use a gradient fade to make space for the text and the author, or the title and the author. So what I first need to do is create a new document using print settings. So I'll go to the print section and make sure it's in inches and CMYK and 300 resolution. That's standard print settings. Now, I've Googled the print size or the dimensions of a book cover, and the standard book cover is 6 by 9 inches. There are other book cover sizes, but this one is common and we're going to just go with it. So we'll go ahead and click create. And here's my book cover. Now, the first thing I need to do is place embedded my image. So I'll go ahead to my downloads folder, and I got this from unsplash.com. So you can look for it. It's 553291 by Alex Perez. And it fits perfectly on my book cover. So that's fantastic. So again, I want this to be sci-fi. I want her eye to pop out. And this really works well on color eyes or light eyes or really deep color eyes in terms of like actual lots of color. If it's a person who has black or brown eyes that are really dark, or it's not a well-lit picture, then this doesn't work very well. If you have a chance, search for Glenn Lewis, or Dewis. I can't remember. Now I have to find him. Glenn Dewis. Yes, Glenn Dewis. If you search for him on YouTube, he actually has a bunch of tutorial videos, and if you search his channel, there's one in there for how to make brown eyes pop, and so that's how you could do something if somebody has a darker eye. All right, so what I need to do is I want to go up to the adjustments layer because I don't want to harm this original image, and I actually always create a copy just so I don't harm it and turn off the original just in case. So with this image, I'll do a hue and saturation layer and adjust the hue and saturation until I get the eye color I want. So I can bring that down, maybe bring the saturation up, and her eye looks really good. But unfortunately, everything else looks crazy, and I only want the eye to pop. So right now what's happening is every adjustment layer you add adds a mask on it. And what a mask does is it tells that layer what to affect and where not to affect. So the rhyme we remember with this is black conceals, white reveals. So anywhere you see black on the hue and saturation layer, it's going to conceal that hue and saturation effect on the photo. Anywhere you see white, it's going to reveal that hue and saturation effect. So right now it's showing all white, so we're seeing it affecting everything on this photo. So we're going to make sure that our foreground and background colors are black and white, and specifically we want our foreground color to be black. Now clicking on that mask, we're going to do Alt or Option and hit delete. That's going to flip it so that your foreground color fills everything in that mask. So now everything's black, and again, black conceals, white reveals. So that means everything here is concealing that hue saturation. And we did that because it's easier to paint a little bit of white than a lot of bit of black. So we're going to grab our paintbrush. We're going to make sure it's soft because we don't want hard edges that look weird. And we're going to use the bracket keys on our keyboard to make it a little bit smaller. Now what we want to do is flip this to paint white so that we can see her eye. Now it's annoying to have to come here and flip it every single time. So what I would recommend is to hit the X key on your keyboard anytime you want to flip. So I'm going to flip to white, and with my Wacom tablet or mouse, I highly recommend the Wacom tablet, I will paint her eye. Now as we get in here, you're going to see that there's a little bit of spillover. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller and flip to black, and then just paint black to conceal it. And I'm not harming the pixels in any way. And again, I can flip and just keep cleaning and coloring and cleaning and coloring until I get the eye I want. So I think that looks really good. Now the problem is this is supposed to be sci-fi. It's about an alpha wolf girl. And again, it's just too bright and happy. So I'm going to do another hue and, or maybe not hue and saturation. Let's do brightness and contrast, or even levels. So levels are going to change how the blacks look in your image, and how the midtones look in your image, and how the whites look in your image. So I can pull that down, and I actually really do like that, and I'm going to leave it. It's going to conceal everything, or it's going to reveal everything on there because it's all white. And I'll go to adjustments and do brightness, contrast. And I actually want this to be less bright, and I want it to be more contrasty. Okay, so this looks good, except for I feel like her eye is awesome, but it's not as strong as it was before. So in this instance, I want it all white because I want it to reveal that brightness and contrast everywhere on the photo. Excuse me. But here, with her eye, I want to conceal it because I don't necessarily want it to affect the eye that much. So I'm going to click on here, grab my paintbrush, hit X to flip to black, and I want to conceal it just on that gold part. So that's going to make it pop a little bit more. So your eye might be red, it might be purple, etc. And by the way, this technique works for changing hair color, changing lip color, making something all black and white, but then changing one aspect or one object in that image to be in color. So this works for a lot of different things. But for me right now, this is working really well. Now the last thing is I can add some text, and normally I could just add text here and there's enough space right here that it would work. But I do want to show you one more mask effect, and that's the gradient fade. So on this particular image, we're going to go back to our original copied image. We want to make some space, and in order to do that, we can manually add a mask here. So we're going to click this mask button, and it's going to add a white mask, which means all of this image is being revealed. I can go over here to my gradient tool, again making sure that black is my foreground color, coming up to the gradient picker and choosing the one that has black to these little transparent pixels. So that's called foreground to transparent. So when I click on that, if I click and drag now, it's going to take it from black to transparent. So it's adding a lot of white. It's concealing all of it down here. And if I don't like that, then I can do Control or Command Z, and I can maybe start a little bit earlier. And so maybe I'm only seeing her eye. And I think it's a little too bright, so I'll click on my background, click the half and half circle to add a fill layer, and choose solid color. And I'm sorry that you couldn't see that, but okay. So I actually want it to be black, and then click OK. And that's going to add a black background, but again, we can't see it until we turn off this photo. But if we add a gradient fade now, click on the mask first, grab that gradient tool, make sure it's foreground to transparent, and now when we click and drag out, it's going to add that gradient fade. So I think that's a little too much for me, so I'll start down here and not get so close to her eye. I can also go at an angle if I wanted to, so that gives me a little bit more space to add some of my text. So that's a good way to practice masks, is just to manipulate photos and change eye colors, change hair color, make one thing stand out and the rest of it be black and white. You can mess with all of these different adjustments. It's never going to hurt anything, especially if you have this original layer, because you can click and delete all of these. In addition, you can right click on any of these masks and you can choose to disable it to see what it looked like before and after. Right click and enable. And if it's a really bad mask, you can right click and choose delete layer mask. In addition, see how this mask and this mask look pretty much the same? If I were to delete this layer mask, I could take this one, hold Alt or Option on my keyboard, and drag it up here. Now, it's opposite of what we wanted because now it's only showing the brightness and contrast on here and not anywhere here. So with this selected, I can do Shift Command I. Well, actually, I'm going to lie. That's a lie. Select. There's something. Command, delete. Yeah. You're going to have to Google click that one. I can never remember it, or Google click. You're going to have to Google search that one because I can never remember what that is. But there is a keyboard shortcut to be able to flip those two. I just can never remember what it is. And then I always start doing weird stuff and deleting stuff. So I'll go ahead and go back to my original image. So now this is ready for me to just start adding text for the title and the author's name.